The Roman siege of Antioch in 540 AD was so brutal that more soldiers died from disease and starvation than from battle. This wasn't a swift clash, but a slow, grinding ordeal that broke men's bodies and spirits. Hunger, sickness, and despair became the true enemies. Each day, Roman soldiers watched comrades waste away, far from home, with little hope of relief. The mighty Roman army, meant to project power, was instead being consumed by the very city it sought to conquer. The psychological toll was immense. Soldiers faced not just enemy arrows, but the creeping dread of death from within their own camp. The defenders taunted them from the walls, their own supplies holding out. The siege became a test of morale, a contest to see which side would break first. For the Romans, victory came at a staggering cost, nearly destroying the army sent to claim it. The suffering and endurance of tens of thousands turned this siege into legend. Even the mighty Roman Empire learned that victory was never guaranteed. The Siege of Antioch became a cautionary tale whispered for generations. Why was Antioch so vital? It was the heart of the Roman East, a metropolis of wealth, culture, and faith. Founded by Alexander's generals, Antioch commanded trade routes from Persia, India, and China, making it fabulously rich. Its streets bustled with Greeks, Syrians, Jews, and Arabs, and its temples and churches stood as symbols of its importance. Antioch was also a cradle of early Christianity, giving it immense religious weight. For the Eastern Roman emperors, losing Antioch would be catastrophic, a blow to their economy, prestige, and identity. The Sasanian Persians, led by Khosrow I, saw Antioch as the ultimate prize. Capturing it would shatter Roman invincibility and elevate Persian power. When Khosrow marched on Syria in 540 AD, he aimed straight for Antioch, challenging Roman authority at its core. Emperor Justinian, distracted by wars in the west, underestimated the threat. Khosrow seized the moment, setting the stage for a monumental clash. Antioch became the symbol of a struggle between two empires. The Eastern Roman Empire mobilized a formidable army to defend Antioch. These were not Caesar's legionaries, but professional Byzantine soldiers, armored cavalry, disciplined infantry, and expert engineers. The army was a diverse force, drawn from across the empire, skilled in combined arms tactics. Their siegecraft was legendary. Catapults hurled stones, siege towers loomed, and logistics kept the army supplied. The Romans' ability to sustain long sieges was a key advantage. Yet, this power came with vulnerabilities, expensive upkeep, stretched supply lines, and the ever-present threat of disease. The army outside Antioch was both a symbol of might and a fragile machine, dependent on its complex support systems. As Roman standards rose outside the city, the stage was set for a siege that would test every strength and weakness. The fate of Antioch would hinge not just on force, but on endurance. The mighty war machine was about to face its greatest challenge. The outcome would echo through history. Inside Antioch, defenders were a mix of soldiers and citizens, united by desperation. The garrison was small, so shopkeepers and artisans took up arms to defend their homes. Antioch's greatest asset was its formidable walls, thick, high, and bristling with towers. The mountainside fortifications were nearly unassailable, making direct assault almost impossible. Defenders stockpiled food, water, and arrows, mounting their own artillery to counter Roman siege engines. Boiling oil and pitch were readied for attackers. Their strategy: hold out, inflict casualties, and hope the Romans would break or withdraw. Morale was crucial. Early resolve gave way to fear as the siege dragged on. Religious leaders led prayers, but dwindling supplies and constant bombardment wore down spirits. Every day became a battle for survival, not just against the enemy, but against despair. The city's fate depended on endurance and unity. Antioch braced itself for the storm to come. The siege began with probing attacks and a tightening noose. Roman cavalry cut off all roads, isolating Antioch completely. Khosrow's engineers unleashed a relentless bombardment, hurling stones over the walls to terrorize the city. The goal: weaken fortifications and shatter morale. Defenders fought back fiercely, targeting siege crews and launching night raids to disrupt Persian lines. Every attempt to breach the walls met with a storm of arrows and fire. The siege became a deadly game of cat and mouse, with both sides adapting to each new threat. The noise was constant. Crashing stones, shouts, and screams filled the air. Sleep was rare. Tension was constant. Both armies were locked in a relentless struggle, waiting for the other to falter. The true battle was one of endurance and willpower. As the siege dragged on, starvation became the deadliest weapon. Antioch's food supplies dwindled, rations were cut, and hunger spread. The poor suffered most, while the wealthy's stores ran out. Defenders countered Persian mining by digging their own tunnels, leading to deadly underground battles. On the walls, they raised towers and used grappling hooks to thwart battering rams. Every day brought new challenges, a desperate chess match of move and countermove. Outside, the Persian camp was ravaged by disease, as crowded conditions bred epidemics. Soldiers on both sides died from hunger and sickness as much as from combat. The siege consumed attacker and defender alike, grinding down strength and spirit. Ingenuity and resilience were all that kept hope alive. The struggle became a test of survival, not just strategy. Both armies were pushed to the brink. The end came not from a grand assault, but from a fatal lapse. A section of wall on Mount Silpius was left unguarded by distracted defenders. Persian scouts seized the chance, scaling the wall at night and opening a gate for the main army. Chaos erupted as Persians flooded the city, turning the siege into a brutal sack. Defenders and citizens fought desperately in the streets, but resistance collapsed. Fires raged, and the city's treasures were plundered. Some tried to flee, others barricaded themselves, hoping for a miracle. Acts of bravery shone amid the horror as small bands fought to the last. The fall of Antioch was swift and merciless once the walls were breached. The city's long resistance ended in blood and ruin. The sack of Antioch was ruthless and systematic. Persian soldiers looted homes, temples, and churches, stripping the city of its wealth. Fires consumed much of Antioch, leaving it a smoldering ruin. Khosrow rounded up survivors, forcing tens of thousands on a brutal march to Persia. There, he built a new city, Khosrow's Better Antioch, populated by the captives. This act was both propaganda and punishment, stealing the soul of the city. Defenders who survived faced execution or slavery. Commanders were blamed for the disaster. The loss shocked Constantinople, and Justinian was devastated. Antioch, once a beacon of culture, was left a hollow shell. Efforts to rebuild never restored its former glory. The psychological scar ran deep, marking the limits of Roman power. The balance of power in the East had shifted dramatically. The fall of Antioch in 540 AD was a turning point in the Roman-Persian struggle. It exposed the vulnerability of the eastern frontier and forced Justinian to refocus on defense. The loss crippled the empire economically and psychologically. The ease of the Persian breach led to a massive Roman fortification program along the border. For Persia, Antioch's capture was a triumph, enriching the empire and boosting Khosrow's prestige. The rivalry between Rome and Persia intensified, draining both empires. This exhaustion paved the way for the rise of Islam in the region. The Siege of Antioch is a story of power's fragility and the human cost of war. Even the greatest cities can fall, and empires can be humbled. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more epic stories from history's battlefields.